When it comes to horror classics, few films are as iconic or as unsettling as Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Released in 1960, it changed the game for horror, thrillers, and even Hollywood itself. But behind its terrifying story lies an even stranger reality. The facts surrounding the making of Psycho are almost as weird as Norman Bates himself. Let's start with something shocking. Hitchcock had to finance the movie himself. Paramount didn't want to make it. They thought it was too disturbing, too low budget, and too risky. So Hitchcock offered to shoot in black and white using his TV crew from Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And in return, he took 60% of the profits. That turned out to be one of the smartest financial moves in film history. The infamous shower scene, probably the most analyzed scene in horror, was filmed over 7 full days. It includes over 70 different camera setups and 50 cuts in just 45 seconds. And despite what many people think, you never actually see the knife penetrate Marion Crane's body. That's how clever the editing is. Now here's something even weirder. The stabbing sound wasn't created with special effects. It was made by stabbing a cassava melon. Hitchcock and his sound team actually stabbed different types of fruit to find the one that sounded the most like flesh. They settled on the melon after several tests. Janet Leigh, who played Marion, was so traumatized by filming the shower scene that she reportedly avoided taking showers for the rest of her life, opting for baths instead. She even said in interviews that it made her more cautious and aware of locking the bathroom door. The film's most infamous spoiler, the fact that Marion dies less than halfway through the movie, was so unexpected at the time that Hitchcock forced theaters to follow strict rules. No one was allowed to enter the theater after the movie had started. Ushers were told to turn people away if they came in late, which was unheard of at the time. This actually built up the hype even more. Psycho was also one of the first American films to show a toilet being flushed on screen. It might sound silly today, but back then it was considered too vulgar for film. Hitchcock insisted on it for realism, and even that tiny detail caused controversy with the censors. Speaking of controversy, the film initially struggled to get approved by the Production Code Office because of its content, especially the nudity and violence. Hitchcock cleverly resubmitted the exact same cut a few days later, and miraculously, it passed. He claimed the censors just had different moods depending on the day. Anthony Perkins, who played Norman Bates, was only 27 at the time and brought a disturbing innocence to the role, but the film barely showed him in marketing. Hitchcock deliberately kept Norman out of most trailers and posters to keep the twist a surprise. Most audiences had no idea who the real villain was going to be. The house behind the Bates Motel is now one of the most recognizable film sets in history, but it was originally built from leftover pieces of old Universal sets. It wasn't some grand new construction. The creepy look came from clever set design, angles, and lighting. Here's another bizarre fact. Hitchcock didn't want any music in the shower scene. Composer Bernard Herrmann ignored him and wrote the screeching violin score anyway. When Hitchcock heard it, he admitted he was wrong. And now, that score is one of the most iconic in film history. To keep the twist ending a secret, Hitchcock bought up as many copies of the original novel Psycho as he could find. He didn't want anyone reading it before the movie came out. It was a calculated move to preserve the surprise of Norman's dual identity. Although it's considered a masterpiece today, Psycho received mixed reviews when it first opened. Some critics were horrified, others unimpressed. But once audiences started lining up around the block, the critics changed their tune. It quickly became a box office smash and a cultural phenomenon. Janet Leigh's body double for the shower scene, Marley Renfro, was actually a Playboy model. While Leigh filmed the close-ups and emotional expressions, Renfro did the shots involving nudity and physical action. For years, people thought Leigh had done the whole thing herself. Hitchcock didn't win Best Director for Psycho. In fact, the film was largely snubbed at the Oscars. It received just 4 nominations and didn't win a single award. Today, that seems like one of the Academy's biggest oversights. And finally, Hitchcock didn't allow his cast to do interviews before the movie was released. He wanted to control the entire marketing narrative, so he gave them minimal information and had them follow strict publicity rules. He even had cardboard cutouts of himself placed in theater lobbies with messages like, "No one, but no one, will be admitted to the theater after the start of the film." So the next time you hear those screeching violins or see the shadow behind the curtain, remember, Psycho wasn't just a scary movie. It was a revolutionary act of filmmaking filled with brilliant manipulation, industry defiance, and some of the weirdest behind-the-scenes stories in cinema history.